okay? Pretty much everybody has at least heard of the idea of the Good Samaritan. I want to start off with a question. So who knows what is the greatest commandment? Miranda? Okay. Lucas? I'm not going to say you're right or wrong. I want to hear a couple answers. Okay, that's the golden rule. Kara? Okay, anybody have anything different? Andrew? Love your neighbor. Okay.
The answer is actually found in Luke 10:27. It says, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, and all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself."
Good. So we got it, right? You guys have this. We hear it all the time. What's our church motto? Okay. Love God, love people. Nothing else really matters. How many of you take that to heart? Or do you think we hear it so often that we just kind of flippantly say it and don't think about it? I kind of think that a lot of times we become complacent. We hear it so often that we just kind of forget, or we don't even think about what it means to truly love God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, all your mind. That means before anything else. And love your neighbor as you love yourself. The first part sounds really hard, but I think the second part is even harder for us to put into practice. It's really hard for me to treat everybody the same. It's really easy for us to go up to our best friend and treat them real sweet and make them cookies or go visit them in the hospital. But what about the person down the street that won't even wave to you, won't smile to you? Are you going to do the same thing for them? We're going to watch a video with the story of the Good Samaritan. Try to be quiet. There's no sound with this video, and then we'll come back. What's the first word that comes to your mind when you see that video? What else? For me, it's heartbreaking. There's a guy right there. He knows he's hurt, and they just keep walking by. They've got excuses. There's, there could be somebody else. I can't touch him because I'm going to the temple. It's not my duty. We do it in our lives. It's not any different. It might not be a guy laying in the street. But how did we get so callous that we could walk by somebody hurting? Or have we always been like that?
So, what I thought when I saw this is, even though people call you things and you're despised, it doesn't mean that you need to be mean back and pass by the man who's broken, but to help them and love them even more.
I think we get so wrapped up in our lives. We've all got our schedules. We've got activities. We've got our finances. We've got our kids. We've got friends. That we overlook the people that God has put in our lives that we're supposed to be helping. And I think that we forget that we are the face of Jesus to the world. And whether you believe it or not, whether you think you're qualified or capable or whatever word you want to insert, God can use you. You just have to be willing. So Jesus speaks in parables throughout the Bible, right? In the New Testament, he uses parables. It talks about not necessarily giving the true meaning of everything to everyone. But he uses this parable specifically to teach us about service. And I thought it was kind of appropriate when Zoe said, hey, I want to talk about the Good Samaritan. If you read through the story this week, there were a lot of different parables in there that we could have talked about this week. And she said, I want to talk about the Good Samaritan. I love this story. And I thought, how perfect. We're going to Camp Comcedo, and this is all about service. And what I did when we looked at some of this and we did some research, we found that there are 5 requirements to serve other people. So we're going to use this, and how many of you can relate to a guy laying in the street and walking past him? Me neither. We don't see that often. How many of you can relate to a kid at school getting bullied? Nobody. You guys raise your hands. Come on, help me out here. Okay, so we're going to go with the example of bullying, or you can think of the loner at the lunch table that nobody else is sitting by. So whatever this could be in your life. And when we break it up into small groups, you guys can kind of come up with some specific examples. So our 5 requirements. Remember when I teach, I like to use the same letter for everything. So these are all C words. So the first one is consciousness. Consciousness just means that you are aware. Everybody in this story was aware of the problem. The priest, the Levite, the Samaritan, everybody sees the guy that was beaten up and left to lay. But only one person does anything about it. The second C is compassion. Compassion is being willing to do something to help another person, not because he deserves it, but because God has provided you to be able to do it. It's just simply acting on a will. So we are going to open up, if you've got your Bibles, into Luke 10.
Then a despised Samaritan came along, and when he saw the man, he felt compassion for him.
So with each one of these C words, we're going to kind of refer back to the Good Samaritan, and we'll read the entire story together here after a little bit. Our third C is contact. This is just simply getting involved. This is also the easiest part where we all get uninvolved. We break this whole chain of service. It's really easy to see the problem. It's easy to say, I want to help you. It's not always so easy to say, I'm going to help you or I am helping you. Like I said earlier, we can come up with a lot of excuses. It's easier just to give money. Somebody else will do it. I'm too busy. We're going to look at Luke 10:34 to make this point.
Going over to him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds, and with olive oil and wine and bandaged them. Then he put the man on his own donkey and took him to an inn, where he took care of him.
That also goes into point number 4, and point number 4 is caring. So first you have to determine what the real need is. It could be a physical need, like in the story. It could be an emotional need. It could be a spiritual need. And then the second one is using what resources that you have available to meet that need. So in this story, he's using his oils and everything to care for him. But he also goes above and beyond, and we're going to come to that in just a second. But I think that when we talk about failing, there's a couple of different things that we can do here. If we fail to care for that person that God puts in our lives, we fail to care for them. But we also are stealing that from ourselves. We're not allowing God to bless us when we're able to bless somebody else. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword. We're taking from them, but we're also taking away from what God had in store for us. And we're going to look at James chapter 2, verses 8 and 9.
Yes, indeed, it is good when you obey the royal law as found in the scripture, love your neighbor as yourself. But if you favor some people over others, you are committing a sin. You are guilty of breaking the law.
So this was something that I thought it was really interesting when Zoe and I first started talking about this parable a couple of weeks ago. We both had notes and we were comparing them, and hey, we both have these different things mentioned. We both had this verse marked in our Bibles. And I just thought it was really interesting. It's not related to the Good Samaritan. The whole love your neighbor is in both. But for both of us to come up with that, there's got to be something there. It's easy to love those people that love you back and can repay you. How much harder is it, but how much more special is it to take care of those that can't? Just thought it was interesting. All right, our fifth C is cost. This is the part nobody really likes to think about. What's it gonna cost me? There's more than just money. So in the story, the Good Samaritan, gives the innkeeper the 2 silver coins, and does anybody know what that represents? It's not like it's 2 dimes. It's a lot of money. Do you remember what it's worth?
2 weeks, 2 months pay, 2 days pay.
2 days. So it's 2 days pay for a person. And it's not like, that's a big deal. He's never met this guy. So he's willing to give up 2 entire days of pay. And if he incurs any other expenses, he tells the innkeeper he's coming back and he will take care of it. So there is a financial cost. There's also a time cost, right? So when you get involved with somebody, it may not be a 3-minute conversation. I know, we can look at Reg and he's going to say, yep, come talk to Reg. And a lot of times we think about, oh, yep, we'll talk to Reg. Have you ever thought about if each one of us came up and talked to Reg for 30 minutes? What kind of a time investment he has? And he's willing to do that? There's usually some kind of an effort involved. So for this guy, he carries him or he puts him on his donkey and takes him somewhere. For us, it could be the effort of stepping outside your comfort zone and standing up for the guy who's bullied or sitting with the kid who's sitting by themselves at lunch. And usually there's an emotional toll. And this is something that we don't usually think of, especially when we're just jumping right in. But there's a lot of emotion when you're pouring your heart out to somebody. There's emotion from them coming to you, But you're taking on a lot of that stress and a lot of those emotions, and you're going to have some emotional effects afterwards. So we're going to look at Luke 10:35.
And the next day he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling him, "Take care of this man. If his bill runs higher than this, I'll pay you the next time I'm here." So in this parable, Jesus talks about 3 different types of people. One, we have the robber who only comes and says, "Everything I have, you have, is mine. Everything I have is mine." And he'll do whatever he wants to get to it. Then we have the priest and the Levite, who says, "Everything I have is mine, and whatever I'll do, I'll need it." And then we have the Samaritan, who says, "Everything I have is yours, and I'm willing to give all I have to meet your needs."
Okay, and so as a quick reference for this, we're going to look at Luke 6:35. It says, "Love your enemies, do good to them, lend to them without expecting to be repaid. Then your reward from heaven will be very great, and you will be truly acting as children of the Most High, for he is kind to those who are unthankful and wicked. You must be compassionate, just as your Father is compassionate." I really think it's kind of interesting. There's actually 4 people in the story. So we talk about the 3 main people. We talk about the robbers. We talked about the priest and the Levites. We talked about the Good Samaritan. The 4th person that's often overlooked and nobody thinks about his point of view is the guy that gets beat up. Right? So who are you in life? Are you the guy that's getting beat up all the time and you need somebody to save you? Are you the robber who's taking everything because you want it? Are you the priest and Levite who you're too busy? You've got other things. Somebody else will take care of it. Or are you the Samaritan? You're willing to go out of your way, be a little uncomfortable, and help somebody else. How many of you are signed up for Camp Comcedo this weekend? Yay! That's awesome. So with talking about service, this is a perfect time to tie into the camp because we are going to give back and serving other people. And so I was going to have Zoe talk about this, but she doesn't get to go next year. So I just want to say that I think this camp is one of my favorite things that we get to do because we're getting to give back to those people who have no way of repaying us. If you haven't been to Camp Comcedo, we're going down there. We help rake and fix buildings and all these other list of chores for the inner city kids that don't have anything. And this summer they get to come and hear about Jesus. And they've got a place to stay. And otherwise they wouldn't have anything. So with the help of our group and a lot of other groups like it, it's just a really cool way that we can give back and serve other people. So if you're interested in it and you haven't got signed up, early bird deadline's passed. Can they still sign up, Reg? No? Okay, so go next year if you can't go this year. Talk to Reg. So, with that being said, it's just a really cool thing. I want to go ahead and split into our small groups. The leaders have discussion questions, and you guys are going to read through the story of the Good Samaritan, I believe, and then discuss it out.